now, just so you're aware. And if folks can stay on mute until the end of the presentation when we ask questions, that would be great. So let me tell you a little bit about Ray, who will be presenting to us. Ray is the Department Head of Facilities Planning for Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. And Mr. Tremblay, Ray Tremblay. Mr. Tremblay is a registered civil engineer from the state of California, and he is a board certified environmental engineer by the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. Mr. Tremblay has been a member of the district's engineering staff for 29 years, serving in various capacities in wastewater and solid waste facilities planning, construction, operation, and regulatory compliance. Mr. Tremblay is currently responsible for facilities planning, information technology, and property management for the districts. So thank you so much for being here, Ray. And without further ado, I'll let you get started.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm going to be standing in the shoes today of the water agency, Metropolitan Water District. We're their partner on this very important project, but I've been involved in a lot of recycling over the years, and I've heard their talk a number of times, so I think I can deliver it okay, but you might need to be a little bit patient with me on some of the detailed water agency questions, but I should be able to handle most of those. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Did somebody have a question? Sorry.
Okay.
I think someone's unmuted. If you can just hold your questions until the end, unless it's because you can't hear Ray, if the sound cuts out. Otherwise, let's just wait till the end. Thanks, folks.
Okay. Sorry, I thought somebody was asking me a question. Can you see the screen? I can run the slideshow if that's better.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Is that better now? You see the full screen?
It's not yet full screen, but we can see your slides, but this works too. We can see the screen.
Okay, somehow it's showing yeah, in mine it's like showing just okay, anyway, you can see the slide. I'll just go ahead. Yeah. Okay, so our project has a new name as of last week. It's now Pure Water Southern California, and you may have heard of a number of projects throughout the state with that Pure Water name. Like Monterey's project, very similar, is Pure Water Monterey. San Diego's is Pure Water San Diego. And so I guess the concept is, pure water. Obviously, the source is reclaimed water, but through the project, we're able to make a very highly purified water that's suitable for drinking. So if I go to the next slide, again, I'm not a Metropolitan employee. I work for the sanitation department of LA County, but Metropolitan serves about 19 million people in Southern California. It's a $1 trillion a year economy that's supported in part by their supplemental water supplies. And they do import water from Northern Sierra, as you know, and also the Colorado River. But they also invest in a lot of local water supplies. And so that's what tonight's talk is about, is investment in local water supplies in Southern California. The next slide, again, I can probably skip this. I'm sure you're all well aware of the drought conditions we're experiencing here and throughout the state. And our reservoirs are critically low levels, and we haven't had state water project deliveries of major percentages of the normal deliveries in a number of years now. And the Colorado River reservoirs are critically low also. So obviously the time is right for a project. So in a nutshell, the project is we take the wastewater from our homes and businesses and industries in Los Angeles County, and we clean them at our plant. Our plant is called the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant, and it's in Carson, California, down near the major port of Los Angeles. And I'll show you on a map in a moment where that is. And that plant is a secondary treatment plant. So it's not clean to the level suitable for reclamation. So this project contemplates building an advanced treatment project. So that's with the desalinization membranes, right? We don't have to do anywhere near the pressure and energy of desal, don't get me wrong, but it's a similar concept where we use reverse osmosis to purify the water. And this has been done at a number of sites, most notably Orange County. If you've heard of that project, they produce over 100 million gallons a day of reclaimed water down the road from our plant. And then the project, though, because this water would be produced at our plant near the coast, they have to build about 60 miles of pipeline to distribute that water throughout the region to both replenish groundwater basins and also eventually to go directly into one of Metropolitan's drinking water plants, where it will be treated again and then used in their distribution system with the other potable water sources. So again, we would have a new source of potable water. Okay, so this is a map of the Los Angeles coastal plain. We have the west side is Los Angeles, but basically my agency serves the eastern side of Los Angeles County. And so our main plant is down in Carson, California, again, by the harbor. And the idea would be to build this purification facility there and to build a network of pipes that push the water throughout the region. I know a lot of folks ask, well, why don't we just use it right there in Carson? But there's just not enough demand close to the plant. So the key is this very large diameter pipe, which would bring the water throughout our region in Southern California and out so that we can replenish groundwater basins that have typically been replenished by nature to a little bit of an extent, but also have been replenished over the years with imported water. So the idea is to get them a new source of water to replenish these groundwater basins. But then in order to maximize the size of the project, we also want to connect over eventually to Metropolitan's Weymouth water treatment plant. And that plant, you can see all these little blue lines coming out of it, right? So once the water gets there, they can push that water throughout the region, including down to Orange County, where they still need more new water supplies, and elsewhere throughout the system. So this is really the key to maximize the size of a reclamation project like this. Okay. So the idea is to build a facility that produces 150 million gallons a day. So for water resources speak, that's 168,000 acre feet of water per year. And that's approaching 10% of metropolitan supplies, a little bit less. In a dry year, more than 10%, but long-term average, it's more like 10% of their supplies. And it's enough water for 1.5 million people. And this would be one of the largest programs in the country and the world. Okay, so here's the slide that I'm good at. So this is this is a map of Los Angeles County. And these green areas are the sanitation district served neighborhoods. So as I said, kind of the west side of Los Angeles is served by the city of Los Angeles and a couple of smaller districts. But the main population center in coastal LA County is here. And we're served there. We have 7 water reclamation plants, and those are inland, and they pick up high quality, low salt water from mostly residential neighborhoods. And we recycle almost all of that water today. But we still take all the rest of the water in our system that's either not recycled or has a high industrial component, means it tends to be a little bit saltier. And we're taking that down to our joint water pollution control plant in Carson, and we're discharging to the sea. So this project contemplates taking that water that at one time was considered unreclaimable, and through the advances of technology and reverse osmosis, treating that to a very high level so that purified water can be used by Metropolitan throughout their system. So this is an aerial shot. At the top is the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach sister port next to it. We have our existing plant facility here. It's rated for about 400 million gallons a day, and we're treating about 250 currently. And that water, as I said, is currently discharged to the ocean. It's too salty today to use it to irrigate plants because of some of the inland salt discharges that come into us. but it's a huge untapped resource that we want to try to utilize to augment our local water supplies. So the concept here is being demonstrated already. Metropolitan built a little demonstration facility that is a proof of concept and to test different technologies so we can optimize the treatment that we would use to purify this water. So we would have some kind of biological additional treatment over and above what we already have at our plant. We would have reverse osmosis membranes that removes the salts. And then we have an ultraviolet light step, which provides final disinfection. And when combined with an oxidant, it actually gets out those last few chemicals that we can't remove with reverse osmosis. And it further purifies the water to remove those. And so then the concept then, this is just a simple rendering, is we would build on the site of our existing plant, we would build this new water purification facility on land that we already own. So we don't need to take up any land that's currently being used by other people. So this project would be drought proof and reliable. It would be local. It would replenish the groundwater basins, which, as I said earlier, are currently being replenished by imported water. So a huge benefit for our region. It would improve our climate and seismic resiliency. This water would be local. We don't have to cross the San Andreas Fault and with the importation of the water. And it serves a lot of parts of Los Angeles County and the region that are underserved currently. Metropolitan has a lot of these slides, so I took a few of them out for this, but there are a lot of economic benefits when you talk about a project of this scale in terms of jobs and economic output, good construction jobs, project labor agreements, so living wages, and tradespeople get training, and we have local hire provisions that were contemplated. And I mentioned the project is a partnership between us, the sanitation districts, and Metropolitan, but there are also a number of water agencies throughout our region that are participating. Both the Metropolitan member agencies in the middle are big groundwater basin managers in the Los Angeles region, the Water Replenishment District, and the main San Gabriel Water Master. But I wanted to touch on this other one on the bottom left, is the Colorado River. So Metropolitan has some deals with both Southern Nevada Water Authority, that's Las Vegas, and then Arizona Department of Water Resources and CAP, which is the Central Arizona Project. So those folks are looking at maybe buying into the project a little bit. And obviously we're not going to send the molecules of purified water to them, but it would be an opportunity for Metropolitan to leave some other water behind in the Colorado River for those folks, but they could help participate in the project too, to some extent. And then finally, obviously we need some help from the LA Office of the Corps of Engineers, Southern California Edison, and LA County Public Works. Those are the flood control people. And so we need help from these entities in terms of right of way for all those pipelines. And we need the flood control people to help us with spreading the water so we can put it into our groundwater basins. So the project isn't going to be cheap. We were looking at about $3.5 billion in capital in 2018. Metropolitan is currently updating their cost estimates and their financing plans, and they want to start having conversations with their board this fall over how the costs would be spread over their rate bases and their customers, right? So there's a lot of philosophical and policy issues to work through. So it'll cost over $3 billion and over $100 million a year to operate it. But again, producing about 168,000 acre feet of water per year. And that comes out to about $1,800 an acre foot. And that's before contributions from grants and that, which should bring the cost down somewhat. So at this time, right now, we're doing our environmental planning. There will be a notice of preparation for the environmental impact report is going to come out in August or September, actually now, I think it's September. And then we would be working on an environmental impact report. There'd be a draft in 23. And then Metropolitan's board would approve the environmental impact report toward the end, or in 2024, toward the beginning. But a project of this size, it's going to take us a long time to design and construct. So we have about a 7-year schedule for implementation, and we would have water produced by 2032. Now, there is an effort going on right now that we're trying to produce a piece of the water by around 2028, meaning that we could build part of the purification facilities and the first couple branches of the pipe to serve the uses closer to our facility down in Carson, California, so that we can get some water sooner. Because obviously we know the urgency of the drought, and waiting another 10 years for a drop of water to come out of this project is going to be hard for all of us. So that's all I had to start with. I can figure out how to unshare here.
The share screen button at the bottom, if you just click that, it should stop sharing.
There, did it unshare? There it is. I got it. I missed it. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so
Thanks.
I can pull the pictures back up if anybody has any questions, or I know Katie asked me a few ahead of time. I can answer those if you want, but if anybody has a question, I'd be glad to stay on to talk about anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll just say quickly that we've been following some of the financial arguments for this, and some folks are saying, wow, what an expensive project at $3 billion. I think that the impact there is that when you look at projects like the Delta Tunnel, which is going to be $16 to $40 billion with inflation over time, when you look at that, we don't know how much longer water will be coming from the Sierra Nevada to even, pass through that. We know that snow melt will be gone by 2046. And what does that mean for the future beyond that? But with this project, we're probably pretty consistently going to get that 168,000 acre feet per year. I mean, almost indefinitely, depending on how much wastewater we produce. And so that this project, this whole thing will last much longer than things like the tunnel and, other reservoirs built for the tunnel. Those are eventually going to become stranded assets, but this is something that will last decades longer. So I think the first hand I saw was Penelope.
Yeah. Yes, I have sort of a three-pronged question. On one of the slides, I noticed Lancaster was in color. So I'm presuming that there is some portion of water treatment going on there. Where I live is Ridgecrest, and we're about 90 miles north of Lancaster. So I'm wondering if whatever you know about the Lancaster portion might benefit us in any way at all. The other thing is we are currently pumping groundwater, and we are considered in critical overdraft. We're pumping about 21 to 28,000 acre feet a year with 11,000 acre feet recharge. So I'm wondering if it's not practical to get anything from Lancaster, would it be feasible to take your proof of concept project and duplicate it for us in Ridgecrest? We only have a population of about 20,000, so we're a very small community and we're pretty isolated. And then the last part is, aside from the cost, what is the downside of doing this project? Because it seems to me that the costs in terms of dollars and health are would be worse not to do it. But maybe there are some other downsides, environmental, that you'd like to address.
Okay, so first, Penelope, Lancaster is our service area, and we have a 14 million gallon a day plant up there. That's we would love to recycle the water there. The groundwater basin in Lancaster is called the Antelope Valley Groundwater Basin. So it's also served by a different state water contractor, not Metropolitan. It's called AVEC, Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency. So this project is not meant to serve those folks. They're up and over several mountain ranges before then. So I'm sorry, but we won't be able to help Lancaster, let alone Ridgecrest with this project. But we are involved in planning projects with the water agencies in Lancaster and Palmdale, where we also have a plant. So like in terms of your community, Ridgecrest, there's another town up there in the high desert, Rosamond, and they're putting 1 million gallons a day into the ground as we speak, which is probably about half of their community's flow. So they've identified that as an important way to help bridge the gap between supply and demand. So these projects are definitely feasible. The only problem is when you're inland, if you decide that you need this advanced treatment, the reverse osmosis, you have this salt product that ends up and that's got to be disposed of. And I think that's one of the things for the third point you asked is why haven't we done this project already, right? So, I mean, one, it comes down to money and it costs because it is a lot of money and it's a huge investment. It's also our plant is so big and our region has so many different water agencies. We really need someone like Metropolitan to come in and do a project because they have the capacity to do it. And it's hard to do that on a small scale. So I guess the issues with a facility like this are it's really just a huge capital investment and we got to get through all the institutional issues. And again, if we have an ocean to discharge the water and we can manage it safely in the ocean, then that's great. But if you're in an inland community like Lancaster or Ridgecrest and you want to do this type of treatment, you really have to figure out a good way to manage the brine. It can be done, but there are side effects with other options like deep well injection or evaporation ponds and all those kind of things.
Thanks, Ray. Jan?
I just have a question regarding sea level rise and the plant location on the coast. I don't know how far in it is or, what the future looks like for that.
Yeah, the plant is actually 7 miles inland. I was grossly exaggerating to say it's on the coast, right? There are other plants in our region right on the water, right? And others have had to move to get themselves ready for climate change. But we're on pretty high ground and we're 7 miles in. So we've done some planning through 2050 and we should be fine with sea level rise at that facility.
Thanks.
Great. Lionel?
Yes, thank you, Katie. Thank you very much for having me. My question is, and forgive me if you need me to clarify. I noticed that on your map, it showed parts of the Arroyo Seco, correct? And I noticed that LA Nature for All, which is an environmental advocacy group, has been working hard to expand the San Gabriel Mountains monument and the Angeles National Forest, further protections for, the San Gabriel Mountains, Arroyo Seco. And I was just wondering if your department would work closely with LA Nature for All to take them into consideration about their input, their ideas, what they think about this potential project. Because I do know that we're trying to protect our habitats, rivers, water supply. And when I worked briefly for Tree People, another nonprofit organization, we've been advocating for stormwater capture and bioswales in order to, when it rains, that every single drop of rainwater goes to underground reservoirs or, to make sure that in the future, when we experience a drought, we could use that water supply for emergency as backup, rather than having the water going back into the ocean or things like that. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yes, Lionel. So yeah, a lot of those things are probably not related to this project, but they're all part of all of the above that we need to do in Los Angeles. We need to protect our rivers. We need to capture that storm water and put it into the ground. And we as the sanitation districts are involved in some projects where we can divert some of the water into our sanitary sewers actually and treat it and make that available for groundwater recharge. But I would say as far as this project goes, of course, Metropolitan has a very robust outreach program. I think that's how Katie heard about us the first time, but there's actually going to be a listening session here later in the summer. And the idea would be to a lot of the local NGOs and especially environmental organizations. I know I've seen tree people on their list. I'm not sure about your organization, but we'll definitely make sure that we reach out to you. And that's the idea of the listening session, is to get input early and often from organizations. So of course, we're here to work with you on this project.
Thanks, Ray. I do have a few questions myself, and then if others think of stuff, you can raise your hand and take turns. So I was wondering, is this the same technology that they're already using in Orange County and I think Texas, or is this more advanced than what they're doing?
Well, we like to say we're going to be better because we're newer, but yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same. I mean, as an engineer, we're looking at certain refinements that we can do a little bit cleaner or a little bit more efficiently, but it's very much the same technology at those facilities in Texas, Orange County, Monterey. San Diego is building a facility right now for the first 30 million gallons of their project. So yeah, it's all the coastal facilities are doing the reverse osmosis, and then we do an advanced oxidation step to get those few chemicals that aren't removed efficiently by reverse osmosis to purify it.
And something with ozone, right? Or UV,
Yeah.
right? UV
Yeah. So I was oversimplifying. Sorry, but yeah, the advanced oxidation step is a combination of UV and ozone. Or like the plant at Los Angeles has a small plant like this at Terminal Island, and they use UV and chlorine together to get an advanced oxidation. So, but yes, ozone is the industry standard when combined with UV to get that synergistic effect of the oxidation of the remaining organics.
That's really cool. I love that part. So a lot of questions come up about yucky stuff in the water. So, it's not sewage, but with stormwater that could pick up a lot of gross stuff from the streets, like dog poo and, maybe medications and all kinds of other things. People are always worried about hormones and medications from urine making their way into our drinking water. Would you say that there's any risk of any of those things at all, or that it's all of that stuff gets filtered out through these different filtration systems?
Yeah, there's no risk at all on these projects, and they've been well proven. Like I said, the Orange County model, they're about 15 years ahead of us. They've been doing this in Singapore for decades also. So our plant is designed for that first thing you said, the dog poo or the people poo, right? We remove the solids, we disinfect, but what the additional purification steps do is they're really removing essentially all the salts, all the organic materials. And so you're left with a very highly purified water. And that is very heavily regulated by the state. It used to be the State Department of Health, but now it's under the water boards. It's called the Division of Drinking Water. And as many of you know, the state is they're working on regulations for that direct potable reuse piece, the piece where we go right into the drinking water plant. And so again, it's been well proven, very rigorous treatment, and it will be very well regulated. And we monitor and take all sorts of samples to prove that this water will be protective of public health.
So I hear when I listen to these meetings at Metropolitan and different water agencies giving their feedback, there's one guy every time, Glenn Peterson from Cayugas, I believe, and he always says it's on a Superfund site. And I think people have started to ignore him because he's like a broken record. I mean, my assumption would be that doesn't matter if the water's not running through it. As long as everything's happening in a building on top, I don't think it would impact it. Is that generally how that would work?
Yeah, that's correct. There's no Superfund site there. So Superfund is a federal program to make if you've got a contaminated site, to make the responsible parties pay or bring in money to clean it up. In this case, we bought an old oil refinery next to our wastewater treatment plant back in the late 90s and 2000s is what Mr. Peterson, I know Glenn very well, is what he's referring to. And yeah, the site is not a green field, right? There are no flowers out there. It was an old oil refinery and they spilled a lot of product. And when we acquired it, the idea was they were to clean it up and hand us a brown field, which would be suitable for use. And unfortunately, the sellers went bankrupt and the sanitation district is now finishing the cleanup with ratepayer monies. You know, they left us stranded, but it's still a huge asset to have. It's 35 acres of industrial property next door to our plant, and you know, right near a bunch of people, essentially, right? So it's just hugely valuable. And so we already have the approval for our cleanup. We're running the cleanup. We're being regulated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board of Los Angeles. They have jurisdiction there. So it's not federal, it's not DCSC with the state either. It's the LA Regional Board, and they've already approved us using that site for treatment facilities. So we have that approval. We still have an ongoing cleanup. It's the groundwater below the site still has old hydrocarbons, and it's just a shallow groundwater. And so we have been working to clean it up for over 20 years, and it'll probably take another 5 or 10, and it will never be perfectly clean, but we're certainly going to clean it up to well beyond the state standards. And besides, the other thing is this new treatment plant is just built on concrete slabs, and all these vessels, these pictures I've showed you, it's all internal. The water is inside all these and they're pressurized, right? So the water, the stuff that's in the dirt isn't going to go into the water. It's going to go the opposite way if there's a failure or anything. So there's absolutely no risk. I think some of what his concern is he has the water agency. He doesn't want the sanitation districts to foist the cost on his ratepayers to have to pay to clean the site up. So we've been very clear that no, we own the site. We're going to clean it up and make it suitable for use for this project. But as a community, wouldn't we much rather have this used for a good thing here than what it's been for the last 20 years, which is just an eyesore for the community and a hole in the ground. So it's really not a concern. I think somebody put on the chat, I think it was Ken, had a question about pressure too. Can I answer that one while you're there or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess there's a whole bunch of them here. I guess I just saw the last one pop. He was asking about the pressure, right? So the pressure required for treating our wastewater that's been treated at our plant is much, much lower than it is for desalinization, but it's similar. So I think Ken has a point maybe to your question earlier, or someone's question, it was Penelope, that these types of treatment, they cost a lot of money. And one of the costs is the energy it takes to push the water through this membrane to separate out the stuff. And so that's why we really need to sharpen our pencils in terms of the climate impacts of the energy requirements of this water source. But yes, that is one of the hurdles of this type of treatment is the energy requirements to operate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Going through the chat, Tom Williams, he looks like he hopped off, but he had said that he didn't hear a mention of MET when you're looking at the member agencies. I think there was some confusion that those member agencies are under the umbrella of Metropolitan.
Sorry. I probably glossed over that. Yeah. So Metropolitan is the big regional entity, but then the local wholesalers are like West Basin and City of Torrance, where I live. So those are the member agencies. So Metropolitan is the overall water agency partner on the project. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah. And then Nancy wanted to know if you could show the graphics and maps again. Nancy, was there something in particular you wanted to see? We can come back to Nancy if you can hear us and you want to ask about that. And then yeah, Nancy, if you're not able to ask your your specific question now. Penelope wanted to know if you can use solar for energy to kind of offset some of the energy uses.
Yeah, so right now the plan is to put solar wherever we can on the project. And, it's the energy requirement at build out for this project is 50 or 60 megawatts. So we can get somewhere between 2 to 5 megawatts with solar. We also generate a lot of electricity. Our existing plant, we operate a 20 megawatt power plant there, and that powers the existing treatment plant from the waste that comes from the sewage. And so we're going to try to push a few megawatts over to Metropolitan also. But yeah, the idea would be to maximize the amount of solar we can put on that property. But it's still only going to be a fraction of the overall power demands.
Great. And Wes also had a question about energy. Wes, was there any other sources of energy that you were concerned about? He wants to know if the offsite energy will be renewable.
Yeah, so what Metropolitan is saying right now, they have a climate action plan that they've taken to their board, and they have a concept to get to whatever net zero in some number of years. And so they're going to roll that into their programs. But yeah, the concept is, essentially, by the time this project's running, the state already is going to require over half of our power that comes from utilities is going to be green. So it's not going to be a very big lift for Metropolitan to go renewable, or at least net zero as an agency for this project. Is between the solar and the stuff we have at our plant and the utility power is getting greener and greener. That's the idea, would be to bring the overall footprint of this project down to zero.
Yeah, their climate action plan is pretty good. I think 2045 is the year they're aiming to be net zero. So that'll be great. Nancy wanted to know if you've heard of the method of throwing green waste from landscapers onto the ground to transform the site.
So, this is those types of things, we're in the composting business, right? And we've done a little research on regenerative farming and stuff in the Central Valley where we take the waste solids from our stuff. So we know a little bit about farming, but I think what we're talking about here, our main issue, we've already cleaned up the soil at the surface at the old oil refinery. So our problem now, it's the shallow groundwater that no one's drinking, luckily, that's about 30 to 50 feet down, that still has petroleum hydrocarbons in there. So we're pulling that out with simple little wells that blow air in, and it kind of sparges the stuff out of the water table, and then we oxidize it. So yeah, those are good programs, but probably for the site, again, it's not really the soil like the Metropolitan director you referred to is concerned about. It's really the groundwater is the contamination of concern there.
And Wes says he's heard about using water plants to treat shallow water.
Yeah, I guess it's probably the same thing, but I'm calling it a shallow groundwater because that's what a hydrogeologist would call it in our region. That we're drinking water that's 300 feet down below the ground. So this water that's in little isolated pockets 30 to 50 feet down, it's probably, I've never heard of tree roots and stuff going down below 30 feet, right? So these are, 30, 50, 70 feet down where the pollutants are. So again, it's probably not viable for this site. But those are good ideas for different types of problems.
Interesting. My last question was, so you talked a little bit about the issue of salt and how that wouldn't really be viable in Lancaster. So what is the solution, or what is this project planning to do with the salt right now? Is it dumping it back into the ocean, creating a dead zone, or is it getting processed with all of these different filtration systems and used in another way, or what's the plan?
Yeah. So for this project and the other coastal projects, the state allows the discharge of the concentrated solids that are left over from treatment to be discharged to the ocean through ocean outfalls. We have to do a lot of study yet to prove to the state that this is protective of water quality, but we are engaged as a sanitation district right now in testing and study of what the concentrate will look like and can it be safely disposed. But the idea, yes, for these projects is ocean disposal. If you're in an inland area like Lancaster, as Penelope asked about before, that's really not an option for us, right? So we have to do other things, like you can add additional treatment steps and minimize it. But eventually you still have a waste product that needs to be disposed of. So that's one of the biggest challenges of recycling, and especially on a project of this scale. But if we do it right, we can do it and we can support the project and yet still be protective of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. I just recently heard of a new concept of taking that salt and putting it in kind of a cone or a cylinder in the middle, and then having mirrors around it as a way to collect energy, because the salt retains the heat overnight. So this is a solution to lithium batteries, especially with lithium kind of being controlled by really just one country. So I think it's really new stuff. I'll look into it and I'll send you something, Ray. I see that Lionel has another question.
Yes, thank you, Katie. My question is for the Department of Sanitation. A couple of months ago, or maybe it was last year, I don't exactly know when, but correct me if I'm wrong, the Hyperion water treatment facility leaked sewage onto the ocean near Santa Monica. How can we upgrade our current facilities to make sure that no sewage is ever spilled into the ocean ever again, and to make sure that new facilities are up to date and compliant with environmental laws, state and federal laws? Thank you for your time.
Sure, Lionel. So that's a City of Los Angeles plant. So we're the County of Los Angeles. So Hyperion is their equivalent of our joint water pollution control plant. But that's not to say we've never spilled sewage either. We had a sewage spill in Carson last winter during one of those heavy rain events. So I think we as public servants, that's our job, is to operate and maintain our collection systems and our plants to be resilient and be able to handle wet weather and keep them up to date. And so, like for us, we've instituted, we had an external audit. They identified that we could be doing more in terms of our maintenance and the use of technology. And so we're now implementing a bunch of measures to try to prevent future sewer spills, as we always have. They're not allowed by the state. There are very severe penalties for having them. But again, we can all up our game, both us at the county and then at Hyperion, in terms of continuous improvement to try to do a better job and invest in this infrastructure so we minimize the chance of a spill.
Great. Are there any more questions or comments? Oh, Wes wants to know, will the plant facility building itself be LEED certified, and will there be a lot of concrete used?
My understanding, I think Metropolitan is looking at LEED certification. Now, there's the plant, and then there's the office buildings and the laboratories, the public buildings. I'm not sure if the whole treatment facility would be LEED certified, but I think with the buildings, that's something they're looking at. But yes, water treatment requires basically a lot of tanks, basically big concrete tanks or steel tanks. So in the case of this advanced purification step, most of these things, like if you go to the Orange County facility, it's really pretty simple, right? There's not so many tanks on this part. They have a lot of mechanical equipment that sits on a concrete slab though. But yeah, this is major infrastructure construction. And that's why, yeah, there will be a lot of concrete out there. I won't lie to you on that. It's going to require some, but obviously that costs money and takes up space. So we try to minimize the much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
I just wanted to thank him. I think it's been a wonderful presentation and it's been very helpful. Thank you. Both of
This
you.
was fantastic. Yeah, this is one of my favorite projects out there, so
Yeah.
I love this.
I really second that. This was very helpful.
Mhm. Fascinating. Sue wants to know, will the plant be earthquake proof?
Yeah, I mean, earthquake proof is a very strong word, but certainly we design new facilities to meet the latest building codes and beyond, right? I mean, the building code is for protection of life safety, but we also have to figure in, well, what happens if we lose the facility, right? So it will be above and beyond the building codes, right? And that's something our existing treatment plant, we're looking now to do some retrofits to make it more resilient in an earthquake. But so that's the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I don't see any other questions or comments. So Ray, thank you so much for doing this. This was fascinating, and thank you for answering all of our questions, as you know, out there in every subject that we could get. So thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for having me. I guess I'll sign off, but have a very good evening, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Ray.
bye-bye.
Awesome. Well, that was really cool. I think that, so they offer to take us on a tour eventually in person. I think I'm going to ask first, is there air conditioning inside these buildings? Because if not, I'm probably going to wait until it gets a little cooler before I make this happen. But at that point, I will pose it to all of you. I understand it's difficult if you don't live around LA to get down here, but you're certainly welcome to if anyone wants to make the trip down here. So that'll be a lot of fun. A reminder, next week we won't be having a meeting, but the following week after that, we will. And partly because the Sierra Club office is closed, but also I have an event with some Met board members that night. Can't be two places at once. So I hope you enjoy your week off next week, and I will see you all the week after that. Also, there's not a lot going on in Water World this week, so not a ton of updates anyway, but there will be stuff next week that I can update you on the week after that. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night and take care.
Yeah,
Bye, everyone.
thank you.
Can I make a public announcement quickly? I apologize. This Sunday, July 10th, Ciclavia is having its bicycle event in South LA on Western and Exposition to Florence. For anyone who might live there near that area, feel free to have fun on Sunday, July 10th. Thank you.
Awesome. Lionel, you're always so on top of all of the programs and activities all over the county. You know your stuff. So great job. All right. Thanks, everyone. Oh, Billy, are you trying to say something or are you waving? I think you're saying goodbye.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, I want you to understand that, are you aware that the United States Supreme Court have took up an issue on whether a challenge of the Clean Water Act? So I just want you to be mobilized, make people be aware of it.
You're right. Yeah, we didn't talk about the EPA decision because it's painful and heartbreaking. I'll send out some articles about that too. And yeah, we can have a more robust discussion about it next time. Thank you, Billy. Lionel?
Yes, second announcement. This Sunday also at Echo Park Lake in Los Angeles, they're having the, correct me if I'm wrong, the Lotus Festival. You know, the flower that's on the lake. It blooms
Oh.
every year, I think. And LA Nature for All will be there. I'm tabling, I think, among other organizations. So it's gonna be a family-friendly event at Echo Park Lake on Sunday, July 10th, I believe. But you could find it up on Twitter or do a Google search. Thank
Does that
you.
mean they're in bloom right now and you can go see them at this event? Is that the goal of the event, to go see them?
It's like the lotus is like a flower. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly.
Yes,
That it flows on the lake.
Like
You
a
know.
lily pad. Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
yeah.
Oh, great.
Maybe we need a guest speaker for the EPA decision discussion. I don't know.
Maybe.
Think about it.
Yeah, I'll save my comments on that for when we're not recording. And some of the decisions that EPA makes sometimes. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great week, folks, and a great 2 weeks, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.